This Week in Agribusiness, serving America's most essential industry, is brought to you by Case IH.
Coming up on This Week in Agribusiness, the world's largest outdoor farm show returns to Decatur, Illinois. Hello everyone, I'm Mike Pearson. Not in the studio this week, as you can tell. I'm on the farm grounds of the Farm Progress Show in Decatur, Illinois. It happened this past week. Fantastic event. Wouldn't be possible without an army of people. And Matt Youngman, the National Events Director for Farm Progress, is sort of the general of that army, and he joins us now. Matt, it was a busy week, wasn't it?
It was a great week. It was busy, but it was great, and Mother Nature was a big part of that. It was a fantastic weather week.
It's been a while since it's been this cool at the Farm Progress Show, Matt. I imagine that had everybody excited.
Yes, it certainly did. You know, we had a hot week during setup, and then this next week is going to be pretty hot during teardown, and unfortunately the folks that build the show and tear down the show are going to pay for this, this beautiful weather that we're getting during the event, but we'll happily take it.
Absolutely. It was great for people to be outside in the sun. Matt, did you have a lot of folks taking a look at the field demonstrations?
We did. We had great crowds at the field demonstrations, and as far as my memory goes, probably the best crop we've ever had. It was amazing, and what the genetics are capable of doing, even the stress that it went through, 22% moisture getting down to 20% by the end of the week, and 200 to 240 bushel corn. So, it was a great field demonstration all the way across the board. You had new product introductions, combines, tillage tools. We had the tiling demonstrations, and that, in addition to all the autonomy, it was a fantastic field demonstration show.
Very, very cool. Matt, you mentioned the autonomy. That's a segment that just continues to expand here at the showgrounds. How big was it this year?
It tripled. It went from, last year it was just Raven, and then Raven did their normal show, plus they unveiled a new product on their path to autonomy. And Sabanto and Mojo all out there demonstrating their solution. So you know that it's becoming a category when you have multiple players in there competing for the attention.
Well, speaking of becoming a category with multiple players, electric tractors. Matt, I saw a pile of them at the show this year.
That's exactly right. Electric tractors from Monarch and Select Track. Those are dedicated electric tractor companies. And then unveilings from Case IH and New Holland in the electric tractor category. And it was cool to see an electric tractor right next to 100 years of farmalls. It was a great celebration of all that red paint.
That's a great point, because there is all sorts of new technology, but there was also a great showing of classic tractors at Farm Progress.
That's right. It's celebrate the history, experience the future here, and it's cool to have kind of both sides of that.
Absolutely. Matt, one of the things we talked about a lot heading up to the show was the paving under the Varied Industries tent with an asphalt binder made by soybeans.
Yes.
How'd that wear?
Great, fantastic, great partnership with Illinois Soybean to help make that happen, and it really classes up the joint, and we made it bigger than we ever have. That tent is over an acre. It was 45,000 square feet of roof with 45,000 square feet of asphalt, soybean oil, recycled asphalt underneath it. So it was fantastic. And we have that in Boone. That was the great thing is that was an idea that was hatched at Iowa State. So the first showing of it was last year at Boone, and then we learned a few things on that one and did it here, and it's been a great partnership.
Well, you mentioned Boone, Matt. We're already looking ahead to 2024. Do you know the dates for the next show?
I'm gonna let you take the dates, because you studied it out.
August 27th, 28th, and 29th in 2024, Matt. And you're getting ready all right now, right?
Already. By the time we get to the middle of this year's show, people are already coming to me and saying, okay, for next year, or okay, 2025, the next time we're here in Decatur, I want to do this, or I need to be closer to this, or there's something that's going to be unveiled. So everybody's mind, when you get to about Wednesday noon, switches to the next show, or switches to Husker Harvest Days. There's a lot of planning going on for that event coming up September 12th, 13th, and 14th in Grand Island.
This portion of This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Firestone Ag. The Firestone Ag Dealer Network offers you the support, inventory, and resources you need. Visit firestoneag.com to find your local certified dealer. And it's time to talk markets. Here on the grounds of the Farm Progress Show 2023, we've run into Connor Bridgeman of Advanced Trading. Connor, thanks for talking with us this week.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It is another interesting week in the commodity markets. Connor, I've talked to growers this week. Everybody's trying to figure out what this corn yield is going to be. The market is no exception. What do you think the trade has us priced in right now for a corn yield this year?
I would say the trade, I just saw Cordner came out with the 172. We got the USDA at that 175 and a half. I feel like the 172 feels fair, right? Pro Farmer Tour came in pretty in line with what the USDA. They were a little bit lower, but historically they are a little bit lower than the USDA. And so it feels like the trade, they're not discounting this heat. Definitely heat's going to affect soybeans a lot more. But 95-degree temps last week, 95-degree temps for next week, right? Time will tell. Did we take the top? Did we take the yield off?
But are temps in late August, early September going to be enough to put a rally back into this corn market, or will we need something else?
I would say we would need something else. Just to give you perspective on the export side of it, right? This week for the month of August, we've averaged about 19 million bushel per week in exports. That's the lowest we've seen since 2012. And if you remember 2012, we really didn't have much to export. So it's not a pretty picture. Could we see demand come back? Sure, right? We got China as a trade partner. All bets are off. But really, to get below that 2 to 2.2 million bushel carryout, we're going to need a big reduction in yield, and we're going to need exports to come back. And so, yeah.
In order for exports to come back, do we need to chew through this big Brazilian crop, or how much of this Brazilian crop is on the global market already?
It feels like quite a bit. They are having port problems in South America and Brazil, which that could be friendly. One thing that's going to hinder us is we got the Mississippi River at historically low values, right? How do we get this crop out of the Midwest in 2 months down that river with no rain in sight? So if you're a Central Illinois guy like me and we're looking at basis, right, does the processor necessarily need to, with what we know now, does the processor necessarily need to pay up for this crop, right? They're going in empty, which is, means they necessarily going to need to fill space. But if the river's not competing with us in Central Illinois and Iowa, right, what's basis going to do in the next 60 days?
Has basis weakened at all on fears of inability to ship quite yet, or are we just seeing typical pre-harvest weakness so far?
We've definitely, barge freight, right, to answer your question a different way, barge freight has went up significantly. And then locally, yes, we've seen especially bean basis weaken quite a bit, right? I think right now, local elevator is going to be in that 35 to 40 under, maybe 45 under, depending where we are, right? Okay. That's going to be Central Illinois numbers.
Exports coming back, Connor. Is there a timeline on the calendar that the market is watching, believing we could see more foreign buyers come back for U.S. corn?
That's a tough question. And, we have to go back to 2020 to where we really saw China really ramp up demand in this September timeframe. And like I said before, with China as a trade partner, sure, all bets are off. But the difference between 2020 and this year is Brazil's got a much larger crop than they do in 2020, right? I think they're, don't quote me on this, 250, 300 million bushel larger from last year, this year. So as far as demand coming back to the United States, we're going to need a few things to work in our favor for it to come back.
So it might be a tough slog there on the corn side. While we're thinking feed grains, Connor, I want to turn our attention to the wheat market.
Yeah.
Bit of a downer week for wheat as well, wasn't it?
Monday we made the SEP contract made for the life of the contract the lows. Looking at July of 24 wheat, we did calendar year lows, and so not a pretty picture this week, right? We're still early in the week, but as we sit right now, we're hitting near the lows.
What's it going to take to bring this wheat market back? Do we need more headlines from the Black Sea, or is the trade done leading on those?
No, I think when you have Ukraine and Russia, they're always going to be a black swan. All bets are off there, and that could always be a bullish card that's waiting to be played. Looking at the Australia wheat market, right, we're kind of finding out where that is. If the USDA has a little bit overstated, that's a bullish card that we can play. And same thing with Canada, right? We don't know what that crop is now, and when we don't know what the yield is, there's always those
So we've got that uncertainty keeping a lid on prices right now.
Yes.
We'll talk through the other issues that are moving these markets when we come back with Connor Bridgeman of ATI. This portion of This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Firestone Ag. Harvey Firestone invented the first pneumatic farm tire, forever changing what it means to farm hard. Visit firestoneag.com to learn more about this history and tire solutions for today. We're back talking markets with Connor Bridgeman of ATI here at Farm Progress Show 2023. Connor, we were talking about the wheat market there and how the prices are coming down. I've seen a lot of interest in double crop, wheat with beans following. How do the economics for that look in 2024?
Yeah. As we sit right now, Central Illinois, where you have the potential, are we going to plant corn acres or double crop wheat? at $10 wheat and $15 beans, right? It pencils pretty well. Now we're looking at $6 wheat to be determined on the bean price, right? Sitting at $13 for next year. And with input prices coming down on corn, that's a decision that you're going to need to start weighing. I would say right now, if you're on subpar dirt, I would say it favors still to do double crop wheat, but it's honestly pretty close. And as we know, if you're a Midwest farmer, what do you love to grow? We love to plant the corn, so.
Yeah. Love to see those yields come in when that combine's
absolutely.
running. But the other factor of that decision you mentioned, the bean price. Let's talk through soybeans. Beans have had some excitement. That's been kind of a one bull story in the grain market over the past few weeks.
Absolutely.
Is it still intact now?
Yeah, I would say so. And just listen to the past 10 days, I think soybeans have really been the leader in the commodity markets, right? We know we're not sure what heat stress does on this corn, right? To be determined. I think everyone would agree 95-degree temps in August on soybeans isn't necessarily great for a bin buster. Yeah. And so the market's responded, right? We've touched and went above $14 beans this week. It's the fourth time in 18 months. So, the market has reacted and we've gone higher. But just looking at the carryout, if we see a 51, 50 yield, if they bring yield down, that carryout is very tight. We throw a little bit of demand coming our way, right? We're at pipeline very quickly to where prices got to go higher just to curb demand.
And as we think about that demand, one topic I've heard repeatedly here on the grounds is the demand for soybean oil for fuel. Is that going to be a component for biodiesel as you look out longer term?
Yeah, putting on my 5-year cap, I can't put the number to it, but think how many soybean crush plants have went online in the past year and how many are going to come online. If we're looking for our export program for the next 5 years, do we switch to more of an Argentina, meaning where they export more meal than the raw soybean? I would argue yes, right, with what we know, right? We don't quite know what the government's going to do in terms of biodiesel mandates, right? A little disappointing if you're a farmer the past, 9 months ago, where they came out, they didn't quite mandate it like we thought. But still, with all these crush plants coming online, it'll be interesting in the next 5 years to see how that dynamic switches.
It will, but you don't see it probably having an impact in the next 12 months?
I wouldn't think in the next 12 months, no. I think we still need to see more and more come. We've seen some come online, but it's stair-stepped. So,
got to get to critical mass.
Yeah. But that being said, to quote Ernest Hemingway, it happens slowly and then all at once.
That's so true. That's so true. And I know one issue we are going to be dealing with over the next 12 months, it sounds like are higher interest rates. Connor, when you're talking to farmers, we're seeing prices rise on the farm. What should folks be considering this year to plan for that inevitability?
Right. The money isn't free like it has been, right? We're looking at 8-9% borrowing rates. I would argue if we're looking at cash flows, right, having that cash in our pocket is probably going to be worth something. If we're evaluating, are we going to store and sell for a later date, right? Carry, and right now we're in a carry market, but at 9% interest, I could make the argument that the market still kind of wants the grain to move now. And so having that cash on hand, I think is, would be a good risk management strategy.
Do you think these higher interest rates are here to stay, or should we just stick our hands in our pockets and maybe they'll be back down in a year?
Oh, in a year, I would say we're probably going to stick at 8-9% borrowing rates for the near term. I don't see anything dramatic now. A recession or something could throw a wrench in that. But as we sit right now, I think the 8-9% are here to stay, unfortunately.
The economy is able to keep up. Connor, real quick before we let you go, on the livestock front, do you see anything of concern in the protein markets?
No, I mean we're at or near contract highs as we're sitting right now. My thoughts go out to the guys out west when we're seeing these 100-degree temps if they come back. And so looking at livestock, right, I don't see a whole lot of negativity in the near term.
All right, we'll continue to watch that economic action to see where it goes from here. Yeah. Connor Bridgeman of ATI, thanks so much for joining us this week.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Colby Ag Tech is brought to you by Copperhead Ag. Learn more at copperheadag.com. Well, here at the Farm Progress Show, our own Chad Colby is a little bit like a kid in a candy store with all this technology. He joins us now, and Chad, you've had the chance to run around, climb in some things. What's jumping out to you as really innovative at this year's Farm Progress Show?
You said it. I think the biggest thing at this year's Farm Progress Show we're all going to be talking about for months is the introduction of all this new equipment. It wasn't just one tractor. It wasn't just one thing. There's all kinds. I got to test drive the new Klaus tractor the other night. Really neat. They actually relocated the exhaust. So for the first time in a four-wheel drive tractor, you can sit in the cab and have full visibility. Completely different.
Right.
Yeah, it was neat. And of course, Case IH rolled out their big dog. You know, a big 700 plus horsepower Steiger, which looks amazing. Was out in field demos this week with it. It was a lot of fun.
So we had that from Case. We also had Case with electric tractors. Strad, did you have a chance to take a look at any of those?
Yeah, I sure did. It's kind of interesting because the first time I shared any of that electrification was at Agritechnica about 3 years ago. And we knew it's coming here. And it's kind of nice to see it here because we know it takes a while for that to evolve to the farm gate. But it's coming, friends. It truly is. And it's nice to see it here on the grounds where people can touch it and feel it and learn more about it.
Do the electric tractors you're seeing here look like the ones you saw 3-4 years ago in Europe?
You know, yes, for the most part, but it's like any other technology. It's changing so fast. But, you know, it's kind of fun to see the technology. I think that's what's great about the Farm Progress Show this past week is we're done reading about things. We're done looking at stuff on the internet, Mike. We can go touch and feel it.
That's so true. One of the things that I have not had a chance to go touch and feel is the Nexat tractor concept. Chad, did you get a chance to investigate that?
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's, you know, this isn't new. It's new to us here at the Farm Progress Show, but it's been around for several years. It's a 60-foot platform. You can interchange what you're doing. If you got a sprayer or a harvester or planter, that's what it's designed at. Pretty interesting, and they got over that big hurdle, Mike, of getting it down the road. It's pretty interesting. They've had a big crowd all week there.
They have. What have you heard from the folks talking about it? Does it seem like something we could see more of here in this country, Chad?
Well, no question about it. I mean, anything that we can do to get a better return on our investment, that's what we're trying to do, Mike. And machines like that, they go down that path pretty good, especially when you talk about also increasing yields with, you know, favorable, less traffic in your field and all that stuff.
It will be interesting to see, Chad. There's always innovations coming. Thank you so much for investigating them here at the Farm Progress Show.
There'll be a lot more to talk about in weeks to come.
Well, Chad, we'll certainly have more to watch right here on this week's episode, folks. Stay tuned.
Closed captioning for This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Pentair Hypro, a global leader in innovative spray technology for farmers for over 75 years. There's some people we really enjoy seeing, and sometimes we get to see them twice in 1 week. Mark Stock, Big Iron Auctions, joins us here at the Farm Progress Show. We got to spend time together with a half century of progress. You got your clothes all aired out a little bit from being over there, no doubt.
Yeah, it was definitely a warm couple of days, but you know, hats off to all the guys and gals that made it to that show to talk about yesterday and what's going on today.
Yeah, a lot of volunteers make that one happen, to be sure. We talk about yesterday. I mean, you sell used equipment. You make it happen. And a lot of it is late model, very little used equipment with a lot of utility left.
A lot of machinery is now selling max because the people that are retiring took advantage of good years in 2013, 14, and 15, and they bought new machinery. Well, now 10 years later, they're retirement age. So there's a lot of low-hour, very well cared for equipment that will be on the market and is currently on the market selling right now.
If somebody is considering, if they're thinking that, hey, you know, maybe now's the time, or maybe it's 6 months from now, whatever the time frame might be, what's the advice you offer to them? I suppose it's sit down with you early, right?
It is very early. Don't back yourself into a corner, is what I tell everybody. So plan plenty of time to get ready, because there's always certain things that need to be done to equipment before it sells. Now, we have crews that will come in and help get everything ready if the sellers don't have the resources to do that. And a lot of times it's because they're up in years and they don't want to be climbing around the front tire of a tractor, washing the hood with a scrub brush like we're so used to doing. But you know, the marketing is important. I know the internet makes things move very, very fast now. But still, don't back yourself in a corner. Call today so we can work towards a successful plan. Even if it's in December right now, we've got folks that already have dates scheduled for February and March of 2024.
Really, that far in advance? What do you say to the person who's a doubting Thomas about online auctions? You know, they say, boy, I've seen them happen in person. I know the electricity in the air, the excitement of the air. I've watched this all my life. How do you answer that?
That's a great question, because, you know, some people are just accustomed to doing things a certain way. Well, the data supports that there are more eyes on a timed auction than there is an open outcry sale. In fact, if you were to attend an open outcry sale today, Max, the majority of the bids that are being received are from people who are on the computer or on their smartphone, because people like to be working, doing something, and 72% of all the bids that are received on bigiron.com right now come from their mobile device. But the open outcry sale, I've been doing that ever since 1984. It's hard to walk away from the microphone and be in front of the crowd and see all the people in the happy faces. But the dollars support the online model is generating more revenue for the seller.
Switching gears a little bit, I know there's a survey this week out about farmland sales in Illinois. I think it only showed about 17% being from the non-farm bidding area. In other words, if you're looking at investors, off-farm investors or funds, only about 17% accounted for that. The rest were farmers.
Yeah, farmers, they're expanding their operations. You know, the saying across most of the states that we service here is, if you're not growing, you're slowing. And the farm that has been across the road, when it comes up for sale and they drive by it all the time, they're going to make a run at owning it. So it doesn't matter what state you're in, we're seeing the same results. The end user farmers, usually within a 7-mile radius of where the property is somebody that owns it when it's being sold on an auction. Now, they may not actively be farming, but they'll have other farms in the area, and they rent them out to good tenants. So we have those buyers as well.
7 miles, that's the magic radius.
7 miles a circle.
That's interesting. I'd never thought about that. What do you say to someone who says, okay, interest rates, the climbing, that's going to maybe have an effect on these farmland values? Maybe I should hang on here. There's going to be some stuff getting a little bit cheaper. What's your response to that?
Well, just this past week in Hamilton County, Nebraska, 700 acres sold for one family, and it totaled in excess of $2 million more than what the recent appraisal was. And the appraisal was relatively current. So a lot of people are actively pursuing buying that land. There were all types of bidders and buyers on that property. Interest rates, we haven't seen that effect that much yet, because most of the people are still coming to the table with cash, or they already have 50% of the money, so the 8% interest isn't going to mess it up. But they take a new farm purchase and they average it, cost averaging off their entire operation. That's how they make that work.
Do you see much difference from one end of the Corn Belt to the other? You mentioned Nebraska. What about when you get to Ohio and Indiana? Is it kind of the same scenario these days?
Well, land is up all across, but you know, everything has a different value statute. The $16,000 land in Aurora, Nebraska, Hamilton County, Nebraska, when you go into Illinois, that's $22,000 land. So it's relative to the communities that you're in.
Quick question in the remaining half minute or so here. In those areas where there have been very dry pockets and the yields have not been robust this year, will that hurt the local bidding for that land that might come on the market?
You know, I think it's a psychological thing. I think the money is still deep in the pockets of a lot of these farmers, and they will actively pursue to add that farm because they're eternal optimists. Every farmer is an eternal optimist. If this year wasn't a good year, next year is going to be a lot better.
Big Iron Auctions, but I see on his shirt it says Sullivan Auctioneers, a Big Iron company. You're bigger and better, aren't you?
Yes, between the two companies, you know, really, really good companies that we joined forces together. Family values, we just believe in doing good hard work, honest representation of the equipment. It all works out good.
Always great to see you. There's more coming up on This Week in Agribusiness. This Week in Agribusiness, serving America's most essential industry, is brought to you by Case IH. Welcome back to this weekend's edition of This Week in Agribusiness. Mike is off stage for just a moment. He'll be right back. But in the meantime, I want to visit with a friend to talk a little bit about what's going on here at the Farm Progress Show with the folks of Case IH. Joe Miller, it's good to see you, sir.
Max, it's great to see you again.
We have had a great time on our stage and visiting with many folks here at the show, and I went by your booth and it was jammed.
Oh, it's been great. We've had a great crowd. We've got a lot of new equipment, a lot of people on staff ready to talk to customers, and we're having a lot of fun over there.
It's hard to miss that big old tractor right out there in the middle. It is the year of the tractor, isn't it?
It is the year of the tractor, Max, and you've already kind of keyed it up, but that 715 Steiger, that's the biggest tractor Case IH has ever made, and it's sitting center stage looking pretty good.
It's hard to miss when that hood is raised. It looks like Jaws.
It does, but you know, when we talk about farmers getting bigger and the need to cover more acres in an hour, right? We need bigger horsepower for wider implements or faster speeds, and that tractor will give it.
And accessibility for servicing is crucial, is it not?
Yeah, for the servicing and capability, just to be able to get up and access for your daily maintenance, it's ease of use for the customer to open and close because of the height.
We love reflecting on the past. We had a great Farmall 100 ride in here celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Farmall brand. But the heritage of the company is important, but you're looking toward the future, clearly, with many innovations coming forward.
It is, Max, and we've got just so many new Farmalls here, from the 25 horsepower subcompact and 25A. We've also got the heritage Farmall 120 Super M on display for the first time. So 70 years of farm progress. 70 years ago, there would have been a 53 Super M and very similar dressings, right? And then we top that off with the 75C electric tractor. So we're turning the page, really looking solid at the next 100 years of Farmall.
Talk with me about the electric tractor. Is there more to come there?
You know, I think there is. At Case IH, we're always looking at different innovative ways to find different solutions for customers. The 75C electric tractor offers that because the full battery electricity offers a different option for farmers in different areas. Some areas are requiring alternative fuels, and we're going to continue to explore lots of different ways to make farmers more efficient.
I noticed even tillage tools on display there. You know, I got to describe the field demonstrations of the Case IH equipment out there working in the field. You're continuing to make advancements all across the board, whether it's the planter, the tillage equipment, or the power.
You know, the most important part about the tractor, you know, is how it connects to an implement, a smart implement that's going to do the soil work or do the planting work and really deliver an agronomic performance to the customer. We have a lot of smart tillage that integrates right back through our precision and technology groups, but really what's important is providing that solution. Some customers want strip till, some customers want no-till solutions, some customers want very conventional tillage, and we've got a solution for them.
Appreciate it, Joe. Good to talk to you. We really appreciate being with you here at the Farm Progress Show. Thanks for joining us on our stage.
It's always great to see you, Max. Thanks.
Joe Miller from Case IH, one of those folks who knows the business so well, not just working for the equipment company, but he's out on the farm as well with his family farm in the heart of the Midwest. There's more coming up here on This Week in Agribusiness. Greg Solier now brings us his farm weather forecast for the week ahead, presented by Pivot Bio Proven 40. Predictable, productive, weatherproof. Turn to a better nitrogen. Turn to Pivot Bio Proven 40. Learn more at pivotbio.com.
Well, it's been a beautiful weather week here in Decatur for Farm Progress 2023, thanks to Greg Solier, no doubt.
I'll take the credit for a change.
He joins us now with a forecast update. Greg, as you look out around the country, what are you watching? The Pacific Northwest here, now that fall's almost in the air.
Yeah, it's nice to get a little recharge going out there, maybe even parts of the Midwest or Plains. That's not going to happen. We'll talk about in a second, but on to the Pacific Northwest. And of course, last week had some semblance of a significant moisture pattern, and we've got yet another one coming ashore there into Washington State and Oregon, and to the east and south we go. Here comes the hot ridge again, part 2 or 3. Its northern extent, and on top of that, the jet stream pattern and the ring of fire. So storms are into play. Big sky country, the Dakotas down through Nebraska. I tell you, that corn crop is blowtorched in Nebraska, but I don't care if the calendar says, you know, almost September, 95 to 100 out there on temperatures, and a little more humidity. The north end of the monsoon set up into the Intermountain West. It will push some cooler, drier weather. At least some of those winter wheat fields will appreciate some degree of rainfall into the Pacific Northwest. Meanwhile, southwestern part of the country, you know, the tropics were pretty busy a few weeks ago with that system into Baja and the southwestern states. It's back to pretty much par for the course, typical summertime, late summertime weather in the southwestern sections of the country. Note the hot and the very hot, even by almost September standards. That's 95 to 105 degree heat. You know, you just cannot really get any significant cooling until you get moisture in the grounds over those central and southern areas of the Plain States region. Pretty quiet across California, across the Sierra, maybe a thunderstorm there. The monsoon setup is into play over the southwestern sections of the country, as well as the heat and humidity. I don't care if it's a meteorological autumn, no sign of autumn weather on the maps and charts into the central and southern plains.
Well, let's move to the central part of the United States. Greg, what are you watching here? That heat is coming back. It sounds like the soybean markets are concerned. Can you give us some details?
You wanted another rally Valley Point, the weather guy, is going to deliver onto the maps and charts here to the northern plains and upper Midwest. Yeah, there's a cool H of high pressure across the Dakotas. Meanwhile, a couple of active and severe thunderstorm clusters at Ring of Fire, the Ridge Riding storms. This time are focused again for the upper Midwest. Had some pretty good rains last week, mind you, into parts of Michigan as well as Ohio. And they needed it, those bean fields, but little, if any, organized rains in the northern through eastern, even southern Corn Belt for that matter. But here comes some 90-degree heat, maybe some 95-degree heat, maybe some 100-degree heat back west of the Missouri. I don't care if it's September. Anything resembling cool air at the Canadian border on northward. A couple of monsoon storms across the western states. Down south, a couple of weak tropical doodads, not mentioned. Nothing like the stuff that's come through Florida and the Atlantic through the Gulf and in through northern Mexico. There's that triple-digit heat still into the central and southern end of the winter wheat belt, and very little change there. Maybe some tropical downpours into Texas and Old Mexico. Mike, Louisiana, they're in a world of hurt as well, with about 60% cotton, sorghum, soils way too dry or in poor condition.
Oof, okay. Greg, take us over to the East Coast. What are you watching beyond the tropical system?
For now, nothing much going on. So far, in that tropical basin, the winds are strong up aloft. It's an El Nino setup. We're getting stuff to cook, but it's going to be in the Gulf and the southwestern Atlantic and the Caribbean on 90 to 95-degree water temperatures down there. Seasonal warm-up for the Corn Belt, pretty quiet, high pressure over the eastern states, mid-Atlantic region as well. Here comes the heat west of the Mississippi, and over up on top of the heat comes the thunderstorm activity for the upper Midwest, northern Great Lakes region later in the week and points on westward. I think, Mike, we're going into probably a 2 or 3 week spell of dry weather in the central and southern Corn Belt locales, with temperatures more or less like late July, if not perhaps August, if not September-like. Forget about that. Nothing that anything like that anytime soon. Meanwhile, in the southeastern part of the country, tropics are quiet over the Atlantic and the Gulf, coming off Adelia and Franklin. Very photogenic storm, but thank goodness that thing, which was a Cat 5, stayed offshore across the southwestern sections of the Atlantic. Anyway, hot high pressure, warm high pressure, high humidity, a couple of coastal showers into the Carolinas down through Georgia. They can assess those fields. Cotton was wide open during those tropical systems, mind you. Down through Florida, it's back to the usual afternoon showers and thunderstorms, cleanup and recovery on a 10-foot storm surge into central and western Florida. Little change in the maps and charts there. A weak tropical system into South Texas later in the week.
Greg Solier is back with his extended farm weather forecast for the country, presented by Pivot BioProven 40. Predictable, productive, weatherproof. Turn to a better nitrogen. Turn to Pivot BioProven 40. Learn more at pivotbio.com.
We're back. Time to talk more weather with meteorologist Greg Solier. Greg, we talked about the heat coming next week. Is it coming with any precipitation?
Not much to speak of. You know, last week we had some organized rains into parts of Michigan and Ohio. The beans appreciated at 1 to 3 inches. We also had an inch or two worth of rain, actually right around here, the Farm Progress Show site, the previous weekend. This week, I don't think so. Onto the maps and charts. Here we go. Little or none, and big cap letters over much of the central and southern Corn Belt. We'll get some 1/4 to ½ inch late in the week on those ridge riding storms for the upper Midwest, northern Great Lakes region. A couple of weak tropical systems, and boy, we need the rain in the central and western Gulf Coast. That's been the southern extent of some of that 105-degree heat all the way up to the shoreline. Rains in through to Mexico, as well as the Pacific Northwest and the Intermountain West. That's kind of a monsoon setup there. 1 to 2 inches, though. Good news for expanding dryness and drought in the Pacific Northwest.
It is indeed. Greg, what are you watching on the week of September 11th?
Here comes the heat. Well, it's here already, and there it is. If I could find my icon that said heat wave, I've lost it somewhere in my graphics package. I would have slapped it up there, but there it is, much above, and that's capable. We're capable of 100-degree heat into parts of the plain states, even into that September calendar date. That would be obviously a record-setting. 85 to 90 up towards the Canadian border, a little push of below average readings into the Pacific Northwest. The warmth all the way to the eastern states, where some tropical moisture, a couple of frontal boundaries will get it wet into the far eastern Corn Belt, but nothing going on with probably worsening drought, western Corn Belt, central and southern plains. Some good news with another round of moisture for northern California and the Pacific Northwest, so some optimism out there.
Go a little farther down the line, Greg. The week of September 18th, what do you anticipate?
Here we go. A little westward retrogression. Yes, the weather can back up to the west, and we'll see the hot ridge kind of slip, and we've seen that happen this summertime season, temporarily back to the west and southwest. A little push of more normalized early autumn weather for the upper Midwest. There's some of the cool air for the Canadian prairie. The autumnal equinox on the 23rd. What do you do when the equinox? You let
Answer the door.
You let it in. Very good. You've learned. Very good. In any event, on the pre-side, to throw it in twice a year. That's all I get to use that. Here we go with some tropical moisture in through Florida again, offshore in the Atlantic, down through areas of the lower Rio Grande, and a little more optimism despite it wanting to get into dry time mode. We've got some above-average moisture for Michigan, the eastern states, and the Pacific Northwest as well.
Take us through the last full week of September. Greg, what do you see?
Nothing but a real, September feel, normal temperatures, and this is temporary, by the way. It's El Nino. We still have warmth coming our way well into the autumn season and what may be a warm, dry harvest season from our vantage point. Winter, a different story. With normal temperatures, though, much of the Corn Belt, eastern states, the warmth across Dixie, the I-10 and I-20 corridor, there's a prod of some cool to cold air that will not come southward. It is situated up towards the Sioux and north and east from there, above average temperatures for the Pacific Northwest. You get into the western part of the country, and again, some optimism with at least some degree of drought improvement for the Pacific Northwest up near the Canadian border. Still some of those ridge-riding storms. Favorable harvest weather for the central and southern Corn Belt. Those newly sown winter wheat fields will need rain. Won't get it, though, at the beginning part of October. Another tropical system, again, originating over the eastern sections of the Gulf, riding up the eastern seaboard. Going to be busy down there here in the weeks to come.
Next, on This Week in Agribusiness, it's Max's Tractor Shed, spotlighting another great American tractor.
So what would a good wedding present be for a young couple? Maybe some fine china, a gift card, perhaps a tractor? Max's Tractor Shed is brought to you by Mystic Lubricants. Mystic Lubricants are made to make it last. Well, I don't think you would have found this at a wedding registry, but 1952, 71 years ago, this might have made a very fine wedding present. Take a look at this Ferguson tractor. Just south of Chicago at Beecher, Illinois, Andrew Homan is proud to have his grandparents' TO30 Ferguson tractor. It was given to them, indeed, as a wedding present all of those years ago. And in need of restoration, it sure got restoration, as Andrew and his dad worked together. Yeah, it looked pretty tough, all right, with that old headlight hanging down before restoration, but my, how great that machine, made in Detroit in that Korean War era, appears today. Some wedding presents are easily forgotten a few years after the vows are exchanged, but a tractor? A tractor that allowed a couple to start and nurture a family? Well, I suspect the Homan boys at Beecher, Illinois would tell you that gift is priceless in value all these years later. Thanks, Andrew Homan, for the pretty views of a pretty tractor at Beecher, Illinois. Well, there's a lot of good-looking equipment that crosses the block all the time at Big Iron Auctions. We've had the privilege to spend a little time here at the Farm Progress Show with our friend Mark Stock, and also, by the way, at the Half Century of Progress. We welcome him in now for his weekly report.
Well, hello, Max. Great seeing you at Farm Progress, and happy Labor Day weekend, everyone. We have a great lineup of equipment selling next week, September the 6th. Over 3,000 items will sell on BigIron.com. On September 7th, folks, the Schneider Farms and Harvesting LLC estate sale will take place in Rush Center, Kansas, selling a 2016 Peterbilt 389 day cab semi-truck tractor, a 2015 Peterbilt 388 semi-truck tractor, a 2016 Jayco tri-axle toy hauler travel trailer, 2022 year model Wilson DWH 650 tri-axle grain trailer, a 2009 Luxury by Design tri-axle bunkhouse and cook trailer. Also on September the 7th, Cole Lumber and Construction Company, Inc. This estate sale features 115 items, selling excavators, semi-truck tractors, wheel loaders, dump trucks, farm tractors, lowboy trailers, and side dump trailers. Once again, Max, the equipment is outstanding. We have a lot of retirement sales coming up. Please stay tuned to BigIron.com for all the latest information.
Our FFA Chapter Tribute is brought to you by Pioneer, developing new generations of seed innovations for new generations of farmers. Pioneer, what's next happens here. We're here at the Farm Progress Show 2023, and we ran into the Illinois State FFA officer team. Joining us now is Ben Bremer. He serves as the treasurer for the Illinois State FFA. Ben, what have you been doing here at Farm Progress Show?
Sure. So today we worked at the Illinois Corn booth, and then tomorrow we will be working at the FS Growmark booth, and then on Thursday morning and all day Thursday we'll be at the Illinois Farm Bureau.
So you've certainly got your hands full here at Farm Progress Show, but you're going to have your hands full now that school's back in session. What are the roles of the state officers here now that school's back?
Sure. So this coming week and the following week we'll be doing STAR conferences with our section officers across the state. And then after that we dive right into our chapter visits. So we'll have 6 weeks of chapter visits coming up all across the state from all the way up in Section 1 all the way down to Section 25. And then we'll have National Convention coming up in November.
That's true. It's just around the corner. What do you have to do for National Convention as a state officer? Any responsibilities?
Sure. So we serve the role as a delegate out there. And this year, Illinois has 18 different leadership delegates serving on the 6 different committees that National FFA has this year.
As you think about young people maybe looking to get involved in FFA, what was it that made you say, yeah, that's where I need to be?
I think everybody before me and seeing the opportunities there that lie not only in the lifelong friendships, but also the different opportunities you get from competing at CDEs, so career development events or different leadership development events, and also being able to come to events just like this, seeing all the different FFA members get to walk across Farm Progress Show. And I remember in 2021, I got to do that as a member at Pearl City as well.
It is fantastic to see so many young faces out here, the next generation in agriculture right there in FFA. Ben Bremer, treasurer for the Illinois State FFA, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you very much.
We wish you the best of luck. We wish all our FFAers the best of luck. Well, it was a very successful 2023 Farm Progress Show, but as always, now that it's behind us, the focus turns to what's next. And for the team at Farm Progress, that means Husker Harvest Days. Joining us now is Dina Morgan. She's the sponsorship manager with Farm Progress. And Dina, are you ready to go to Husker Harvest Days?
We are ready. It's a quick turnaround between Farm Progress Show and Husker Harvest Days, but at this point we're in the farm show groove and we're just going to hit it hard and make that an excellent show as well.
So we've got 2 weeks until Husker Harvest Days. Dina, what are the dates of that show?
So dates are September 12th, 13th, and 14th in Grand Island, Nebraska.
It's in Grand Island, Nebraska. Now, Husker Harvest is certainly a farm show, similar to the Farm Progress Show, but there are new and different things at Husker. Could you talk a little bit about some of the big picture farm approach that you can get exposed to there?
Absolutely. You know, our exhibitors are always striving to do new things every year. They want to have the latest and greatest on their lots so that visitors coming can say, oh my gosh, I need to stop there and see that. And one of those this year is Chief Agribusiness. They have set up the All-American Farmstead, and it is the whole package. So they've got a farm shop, a grain bin and a grain leg, and then a house. So it is a one-stop shop for everything you might possibly need.
And Chief makes the house, right?
Chief has made the house as well, yes.
They do it all. So that will be there. What else are you excited to see this year when you get over to Grand Island, Dina?
So I'm also excited. Another new thing is that Titan will have the new big bud. So this is the first big bud in 40 years, I think. So we're excited to be able to have that at Husker Harvest Days as well.
It has been interesting. I know if that was at Farm Progress Show, I heard growers taking a look at it. It's interesting to see all this new technology out there for growers. But Husker is interesting because it's not just crop focused. Being in the high plains, you know the importance of cattle out there in that part of the country. Can you talk a little bit about what's there for livestock producers?
Absolutely. You know, we call it the world's largest totally irrigated farm show, but it has a huge livestock presence as well. One of those is our livestock handling demonstrations. We do 2 of those a day at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. in the afternoon with our local veterinarian, Doc Joe, and he's wonderful. If you have a chance to stop by and listen to his programs, they're really great. But it's a time for our livestock vendors to show off their different chutes and all the new equipment that they have as well.
It is one of the neatest things to see all these animals coming through different head gates, different chutes, different approaches to use on your livestock operation.
Absolutely. We also have an ear tag company that's there and some pharmaceutical companies giving them vaccines and those kinds of things. So you can really see, again, there the whole big picture.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned irrigation. That is a central focus of Husker Harvest Days, isn't it?
It is, yes.
So many of the different exhibitors have been there, and that's just, you see it throughout the entire show, I think, the importance of water in that part of the country.
Absolutely, the importance of water. So it takes it from the whole process, you know, the pivots to how do you manage your water, to how do you fuel that, all those kinds of different things is really a big focus of the show.
Absolutely. And of course, when you're going, a lot of us are taking our families, we're going with everybody. It's always nice to have fun things to keep an eye on. Can you talk a little bit about the Canine Stars?
Yes, so this is new at Husker this year. I'm super excited. They were at Farm Progress Show, so I've gotten to have a little sneak peek. And let me tell you, if you have a minute, you should definitely stop by and see them. So the Canine Stars were on America's Got Talent a couple seasons ago, and they do a stunt show with some discs and frisbees and things like that, as well as jumping into a ball pit. So sometimes they'll jump into like a big pool, and this is actually full of balls. But it's really fun. It's a great show. So definitely stop by and see that if you're at Husker.
Absolutely. And Dina, folks can get their tickets online. Is that correct? What's the website?
Yes. So visit HuskerHarvestDays.com. That's where you can get your tickets. Also download the show app. That will an easy way to check up an exhibitor and find out where they're located.
Fantastic, folks. Get that on your schedule. Husker Harvest Days in 2 weeks, and tune in next week, same time, right here for more This Week in Agribusiness.
This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Case IH. This Week in Agribusiness is produced by Omax Communications in association with 22 Creative Group. We invite you to visit us online at agbizweek.com.